also how to kind of understand how the color wheel works. So in your kits, you all should have gotten a color wheel. It's part of your kit that you buy on Amazon. So let's take a look at kind of how the color wheel works. So your color wheel has a lot of information on it. It gives us the hue. So if we look over here, we can see the red violet. We can see the hue. We can see the tint. So we can see where it says tint and it kind of looks like a pink. That's because we've added white. So when you add white to a full hue, like red violet, it changes the color. If you add gray to the red violet, it will create a tone. And if you add black to the red violet, it will create a shade. So your color wheel shows you right away what your tint, tone, and shades are going to look like. It also has 3 primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. It has 3 secondary colors, which are green, orange, and violet. And it has 6 tertiary colors, which are a mixture of the primary color or the secondary color and the secondary and the primary. So like the way it would work is, say for example, I wanted to make yellow green. I would have 2 parts yellow and 1 part green visually. So I wouldn't do that with the physical paint. I might start with yellow and just slightly add green until I get what looks like a visual, yellow green. And that's why we have our color wheels with us, so that we can kind of look at them and use them to figure out what looks like what. So here we can see this is the other side of your color wheel, and you'll also notice that it tells you, well, what will this color look like if you add white, or if you add black, or if you add blue. It also shows you where your value scale is. So here we have 6 to 10. On the other side would be 1 to 5. And this is a little spinning wheel, so you can see again all of those different things. So let's take a look at it in its entirety. So here we can see that if we wanted to take, and this will spin around, if we added red to any color like orange, there we can see what the red orange would look like. And if we look over on the color wheel itself, we can actually see, oh, there's our red orange. If we wanted to add blue to yellow, this is what our green, we would end up with a green. If we have yellow green, we're adding white to yellow green, you can see what happens. And if we add black to green, you can also see what happens. And so you can keep spinning this and it will show you all the different kind of mixing guides that you could come up with. On the back side there we can see the entire color wheel, and it's kind of, oh I'm sorry, it's upside down, but not really, because no matter where you turn it, it's going to kind of look upside down. But it also shows you where the complementary colors are. So if you see, if I wanted to find the complement of yellow, if I go straight down, I can see that dark black arrow. It takes me right to violet. If I look at yellow, if I want to find the split complement, like of violet, for example, and I come up, I can see that there's 2 arrows. It shows me split complement. So it would be yellow orange and yellow green. It shows me what a triad, a tetrad would look like, and so on. So in your kit, there's certain things that you're going to need to make your color wheel. You're going to need your watercolor paper. It might not be this brand, but it should be 9 by 12, and it should be 140 pound or 300 GM square. So that's how heavy the paper is. So that's what you're looking for. Notice it says 140 pounds and it's 9 by 12. You're also going to need a plastic safety compass. You're going to need a clear beveled edge, like heavier ruler, because you're going to use an X-Acto knife at some point. You're going to need a good pencil, and you'll have more than one pencil. You're going to need your color wheel. You're going to need some brushes. And you're going to need a set of Winsor Newton gouache. That's the kind I suggest you get. And then you're also going to need a little palette to work with. And then you're going to need an X-Acto knife and a pair of scissors. Now, I will include the X-Acto knife in your kit, but I'm not going to include the scissors because most people have scissors at home. And now this is, you can get this or you cannot get it. I suggest you get it. They're not very expensive. They're about $8. And this is what's called a healing mat. And this is just a nice surface to work on when you're painting and when you're cutting, so that you don't cut into a table. If you don't have a healing mat, you can use like some heavy cardboard, although it's not as nice because this one actually has all of the rulers right on it. So if you're going to be cutting, your second project is going to be chromatic neutrals, you can use your X-Acto knife and line your paper up and like draw your pencil lines and literally cut it with your ruler very straight and pretty nicely, because you have all of those ruler lines on there. So it's a nice surface. It protects your eyesight while you're cutting, and it also helps to, it's safer. So the next thing we're going to look at is how to use a compass. So we're going to go here, and hopefully we're going to see how to use a compass.
Hi guys, it's Catherine Holmes, the art teacher, here to tell you and show you how to use a safety compass. This is a plastic compass as opposed to those old-fashioned metal ones that have a very sharp point on it. These are pretty precise, and I like them because you can do little visual measurements here. So let's get started. I have a piece of paper, which I'm going to tape down on the sides. By taping it down, my paper won't move around on me, and I do need to use both hands for drawing. Usually I would just use this hand, but today I'm also going to be using this hand. So, got my piece of tape. I'm going to go like this with my fingers just to get it a little bit less sticky. So when I eventually pull the tape off, the paper below it will be less likely to rip or get some of that peely paper stuff. So I put 2 in each corner and 1 at the bottom. This is painter's tape, so it's less likely to rip anyway, but if you're using masking tape or Scotch tape, definitely put your finger on it and get some of the oils from your skin to make it less sticky. All right, here we go. Here is my paper. In the very center, right about here for me, I'm going to make a dot. Now I want this to be a very tiny dot. For the sake of the video, I'm going to make it big only so you guys can see it. And I'm also going to be using Sharpie to make these circles. I really want to use pencil, and I did a video using pencil, and then I tried to use it on my projector, and it was not dark enough. You could not see the pencil at all. So I'm going to go ahead and try it again using the Sharpie. So the first thing that we want to do is take this grommet right here. Now notice there's a front and a back side. The letters are going the proper way, and they're not backwards when it is facing upward the way we want it to. Notice how it's backwards and upside down here. You can tell because there's a little lip on the edge too. So make sure that you can read the word compass. Line up this little grommet with your dot and take one of your pencils. It's sharp, but not super sharp. Super sharp is no good because it'll eventually snap, and we don't want that. I'm going to take the hand I don't usually draw with, and I'm going to hold my pencil straight up and down, and I'm going to push somewhat hard on this. The reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want the center of my compass to move. I do want it to move and slide around like this, but I need to keep this grommet on the center at all times, so that is why I am holding it super still here. Then I'm going to take my Sharpie. Again, I want to use pencil because I'll eventually erase the pencil lines and maybe paint over them or draw on them, but for the sake of the video, I'm using the Sharpie so you can see the actual lines I'm making. Now, before I begin, I pointed out some of these dots here, but there's also some dots here for even smaller circles. So my first circle that I'm going to make is going to be pretty small. So I'm going to use one of those. And I'll move it over this way, just so you can see how I start. So again, center, taking my Sharpie and putting it on the side dot. And I'm going around and around and around and around. And my arm doesn't bend all the way around, so I'm going to have to actually take it and move it and put it back in that exact same dot and bring it around like this. So it's not the most beautiful circle, but it is nice and dark. Next, I'm going to go ahead and find one of these side circles. Again, using my non-dominant drawing hand to hold the compass still, and I'm drawing around and around and around and around, and I've got my second circle. Let's do it again. I'm going to draw around and around and around, all the way around. And then I'm going to pick up my marker. Oh, I can actually make it this time. Looks good. So far I've got 3 circles. What I'm gonna do right now is go ahead and go back to one of these other circles so I can continue drawing those concentric circles. Concentric just means they all have the same center point. They all have the same middle. So check it out. I don't have to keep moving the compass. I'm just doing that so I can show you that I've actually got some circles here. So I'm going to put it back and again. Do another one. Once you get into it, they go pretty quickly. I'm going to keep my compass centered here with my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to make another circle. I'm trying to make them all the same thickness, but you know, it's kind of a guessing game unless you actually measure, so do the best you can. Hopefully this marker will make it much easier to see when I put it up on the big screen for my students to look at. Again, I'm going around and around and around and around. And I've been doing this for years. Years of practice. So that's when my circles are looking decent. If your circles aren't perfect, don't worry. You're doing it in pencil, so you can erase. And I've got one at the very last dot. Look at that. It went right to the edge. And there we have it. So I've created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 circles. Make that your goal to make at least 8. Try to make at least 8 circles. You don't have to press as hard as I did. Again, I wanted you to be able to actually see my drawing. So I'm going to peel off.
Okay, so that's pretty much how you make the concentric circles, and you do have that safety compass in your kit. Now, you're not going to make 9 circles. You only need to make enough to be able to create your color wheel. So in our color wheel, and you'll notice here that we also are going to need to use a ruler. And you can see here that the way that we're going to figure out where these lines are, so see these diagonal lines that are going to go over the top of our circles. How are we going to do that? Well, we can put our color wheel, our little color wheel that we purchased that's in our kit, right on top so that we're right in that center where the concentric circles are. And we can use those black lines that already divide them. So you can see there between the orange and the red, if I take a line and draw it all the way over to where between the blue and the green, the blue, green, and the blue are, I'm going to get, you know, my divisions. So when we're all done with that, it should look something like this, right? So here we can see that we have all of our areas that we're going to need. And this is what it should look like. This is what our drawing should look like. So we have our hue. So in this case, we have yellow. We have our tint, our tone, and our shade, and our center circle. So when you're done drawing all of these, once you've figured out that you've got all of them, you're going to need how many colors? So if we look at all of our colors, we know we have 3 primaries, we have 3 secondaries, that's 6, and we have 6 tertiaries. So we need to have 12 divisions. And so in order to make them equal, putting that color wheel right in the center of this will really help. So once you've got everything labeled with on the back side, so you're going to label like each row. So yellow would be our hue. So we just write in yellow with pencil, and then Y, or yellow tint. So instead of writing out the whole word, I just did Y tint, and then Y tone, and Y shade. So yellow tint, yellow tone, yellow shade. And then my next one would be yellow green. And on that one, I'm going to write yellow green, or YG, YG tint, YG tone, YG shade. Why are we doing that? Because we're going to cut all of these up into little chips, and we're going to paint on the opposite side. We cannot paint with our gouache paints, which are like a form of watercolor, on a piece that's not cut out, because what will happen is it will bleed into the next one. So we have to cut them out. We're going to cut them out either with an X-Acto knife or with scissors. So once you've labeled every section properly, then your color and tint and tone and shade, then you will cut them out very carefully. Now you can use the scissors or you can use an X-Acto knife. So I do have a little video here to talk about how to use an X-Acto knife safely.
It's time to learn how to safely use an X-Acto knife. Step 1. Uncap the knife. Step 2. Hold that knife in your hand as you would a pencil. Step 3. Position your straight edge on the sheet that you'd like to cut. Here's a hint. If there's something on the page that you want to protect, make sure that the straight edge sits on top of it. We're going to call that the keeper part. That way, when you cut, if your knife moves away from the edge of the straight edge, the keeper part of the sheet is always protected. Step 4. Evenly distribute your weight across the straight edge by spreading out your fingers and your thumb as far as possible.
This is where
Here's
you
why.
would hold on
If
to
you
your
position
ruler.
just one finger on that straight edge and you draw weight across it, it'll spin around that finger.
Yeah, you got to hold your ruler just like that.
Step 5. Place your knife gently against the edge of the straight edge, at the point where you want to begin your cut. Step 6. Make sure that the knife's angle is at or below 45 degrees to the cutting table. Never hold your knife vertically like this. Step 7. Always cut by pulling the blade gently towards your body, and you're going to apply gentle, even pressure against the side of the straight edge in order to keep a nice straight line.
You don't
Here's
have
why.
to push hard.
If you don't, sometimes your knife will wander off into the sheet. Step 8. Put that cap back on the knife. Anytime your knife is not in use, make sure that it's covered. Now, go forth, ye creators, and may your incisions be ever precise.
Awesome. Okay, so what should your color wheel look like when it's all done? Well, here's a color wheel. There's something wrong with it. What do you think is wrong with it? There's 2 color wheels that I'm showing you here that are kind of cut out already, but they're different than the ones you're going to be doing. Because why? This one only has a tint and a shade. It doesn't have a tone. So we can see that we have the solid red, we have the tint adding white, and then we have the tone adding black. So that's, a problem. We need to have 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. So we need to have the hue, the tint, the tone adding gray, and the shade adding black. So when you make your color wheel, make sure you have it just like the one I showed you in the video, that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of circle that you can paint on. Here's another one, same kind of problem. So what's wrong with this color wheel? It looks beautiful. They did a wonderful job of painting it. They put it all together very nicely on their black mat board, but it doesn't have what we're asking for. So we really want to have that tint, tone, shade, as well as the hue for your color wheel. And that's it. That's how you're going to put together your color wheels. If you have any questions, please email me. And yeah, I can't wait to see your color wheels.